Welcome, everybody. I'm here with Shelley Winner. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Yes.
We're going to get to hear the entirety of your story, but let's just sort of start at the beginning. Your story starts long before Microsoft.
Yes.
Can you kind of take us back to the beginning and walk us through how your early life led to incarceration?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up with teen parents, and my father became an addict around the age of 24, 25. He was in and out of prison most of my childhood. My mother, although she wasn't an addict, she wasn't often present in my life. When my father was in prison or jail, or because, he was in and out all the time, she would just drop us off at a family member's house where we basically raised ourselves. So, but growing up with my father being an addict, he introduced me to alcohol for the first time. I was 11 years old. He got me drunk, taught me how to play quarters. There was a short, brief period where he had gotten out of prison, and I went to live with him when I was in high school, and he started selling drugs from our home, and he told me there was one rule of the house, and that was if I ever wanted to do any hard drugs, that I had to bring them home and do them with him. And that...
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And that was I ended up becoming a product of that environment. I started hanging out with kids that were partiers, and I myself was a partier. I started experimenting with drugs at a very young age. First it was alcohol, then weed, then meth, then cocaine, opiates, heroin. And I spent well over a decade in my addiction. At first it was more recreational use, but then eventually I became full-blown addicted. And just all through my 20s was an addict. Didn't actually end up getting arrested until I was in my 30s. So and then I started selling drugs to support my habit. And then I got caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounded like there was a federal raid of some kind, and how did that impact your sense of self? And the other thing I do think is interesting about listening to what you're describing, so many people grow up in homes where addiction is front and center, and I think the other piece of that is that it forces anybody that's young in that environment to grow up really, really quickly. And that in a couple of ways, right? Because number one, you're taking care of the parents, or at the very least, you're looking out for their well-being that particular day, or like what's going to come in the door. Versus, so you're not getting the care and being able to be a kid,
right?
But then the other piece of it, and I have some of what you're saying really resonates with me, because the other piece of it is like you want to be an adult more quickly.
Yeah,
exactly. I just wanted to be a grown-up. I wanted to do grown-up things, and that included partying, which sounds like that's some of your story as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, side note, but so tell us about when it kind of came crashing down, it sounded like.
Yeah, so at this, I had moved to North Dakota, and it's funny because I had gotten sober for a period of time, and I was actually living in Louisiana with my ex-boyfriend, and he started cheating on me. So I decided I was going to leave him. Well, during that time, my best friend had told me about the oil boom going on in North Dakota. Now, prior to me moving to North Dakota, I had bartended for a few years. So I had some bartending experience, and she had told me that bartenders there make anywhere from $600 to $1,000 a night in tips. Yeah, so because there's not much to do in North Dakota, and you have all these with the oil boom, you had all these people flocking there to work for the oil companies, and they would go to the bars and drink. So I looked online for a bartending job, found one right away, interviewed, got the job. Next thing you know, I'm packed up everything I could in my car and drove to North Dakota. And the first night I get there, one of my coworkers asked me if I wanted to smoke some meth, and that's where everything went downhill from there. And being in North Dakota, it's not very easy to find drugs, and if you do, it's primarily cut with things that you don't want to put into your body. So I got a hold of my connection in Sacramento and started having him mail me drugs and that's how it all started. So at first I got an ounce, and the prices that I could sell a gram of methamphetamine for in North Dakota was ridiculous. It was like $250 a gram. And to put that into perspective, and I don't know how much drugs are these days because I haven't bought drugs in over 10 years. Thank God, been clean and sober.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But I remember back in the day that it was around $50 a gram in Sacramento. So I was making a lot of money, 28 grams in an ounce, $250 a pop. And so yeah, exactly. So I'm getting drugs. I'm having him mail me drugs. At first, my initial intention was to just get 1 ounce, sell most of it, pay off my car, keep a little bit for myself, and then that was it. But that's not the way it worked. Once I got a taste of that money, and now I'm bringing in drugs from my Connect, and I
from
know
out of state,
and it's quality, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't stop. It was just I had another addiction, and that was the money.
Right. How long did that go on?
That went on for about a year.
Okay.
Yeah. And the thing is, in North Dakota, it's all little small towns. They don't have big cities. I mean, they maybe have 1 million people in the entire state scattered about. So so when you move to
I've been up there for some political stuff, and I think there's actually maybe 800,000 people in the entire state.
Yeah. It's very rural. And so here I am, a drug dealer in this very small town. I stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, you're going to get to know people. People are going to get to know you.
Yeah. And, it doesn't help that I had people stopping by my house, in the middle of the night and walking in and then walking right back out.
Right.
So, and then what happens in the small towns, if somebody gets arrested and they get caught with drugs or paraphernalia, the cops will immediately ask, "Where did you get this?" And if they say where they got it, they have a chance to get out of their to get out of their arrest, or without getting charged. And so this happened with two people that I had sold to, got arrested, gave me up. And it was funny because one of the people that got caught had totally made it larger than life, like saying I was getting like pounds in the mail. And so when they heard that, they instantly got a hold of the feds. Well, and plus doing it through the mail is a federal crime as well. Yeah. And I wasn't not just only doing it through the mail. I was also driving to California periodically and picking up, because at one point I started getting more and more drugs, and I was a little bit nervous about having it mailed.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I would go pick up, and then I would drive the stuff back, and that also is a federal crime.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I met this girl, and she said she wanted to buy a couple ounces off of me. And I was like, a couple ounces? That's like $5,000. Yeah. And I should have known. There was something up with that, because she told me to meet her in this parking lot. That's like the number one spot they do sting operations. And so they had the whole entire parking lot. They had their unmarked cars parked. They had audio, video surveillance. She was wired up.
Did you have any sense of was it a shock when it happened?
Well, I had tried to prepare the best I could, because I wanted to make sure, because I didn't know this girl very well. But I did not think it was like a full-blown sting operation. I thought maybe she was just
like local law enforcement.
Yeah, confidential informant or something. But which she was, but I didn't know they were setting up this whole operation. So
gotcha.
So I bought this like fake Arizona tea can, and the top of the lid screws off. So I put the drugs in there, and when I went and parked my car down this alleyway. And when I got out of the car, I set the Arizona tea can down next to this like garbage can, because I didn't want to have the drugs on me when I got into her car, just in case. As soon as I got into the car, she hands me the money. And so I take it. And she's like, "Where is it?" So I lean over and I whisper in her ear that it's over by the garbage can, and it's in an Arizona tea can. And I get out, I get into my car, and I drive home. And then, you know, what's interesting, though, too, is even though I had just committed that crime, they did not arrest me right then and there, which they could have. But that's not the way the feds work. The feds want to build a case, and so they continue to allow you to keep breaking the law. And so they started following me. And it was interesting because everywhere I drove, it was like so obvious at one point. It was because they're always like this car following me down every road, you know, and but I still, at that point, I was just so high because I was doing meth, I was doing opiates, I was taking prescription pills, and then when I didn't have pills, I was using heroin. So I was just high out of my mind, not realizing the magnitude of the situation, even though I knew it was the feds. I don't know. And what had ended up happening was one day I got pulled over, and all the cops knew who I was. They hated me. And they asked if I could search my car. Well, I knew my rights. I wasn't on probation, so I told them no, and they were pissed. And he said, that's okay, because the feds are coming to arrest you in a couple months anyways. And that's when I first realized, I was like, oh, I need to get out of this town. So I went and got a U-Haul. I put in my 30 days at my apartment, and I packed up the U-Haul. And I called my friend that lived in Wyoming, told him I need to get the heck out of here because they're going to come arrest me. So I said, sure, come on down. I got an extra room for you. But while the U-Haul was at my house, they put a tracker on it. And so I'm driving to Wyoming, and I put all my stuff in a storage unit. And I go and or on the way there, I stay at a hotel. And when I pull into the parking lot, or when I park the car, a cop car drives by me, and I'm like, that's weird. And so I go into my hotel room, and an officer was in my hallway, like hiding behind the corner. As I come out of my room, I see him. Yeah, and so...
And so did it happen there? Did it happen at the... Okay.
No, I thought they were.
So fast forward a little bit. Tell us what happened. When did they actually come? When did it actually happen?
Yeah, so they didn't arrest me there. So I move in with my friend, and I'm not making the money that I'm making in Wyoming, because
Gotcha.
a gram of meth is not as much in Wyoming. So I go back to North Dakota, and I figured I'd slip in, sell some drugs, slip back out, you know?
Yeah.
And that's when they got me. Yeah. I was at a friend's house, and somebody reported me. I don't know who it was, probably one of my friends trying to get out of trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And next thing you know, I think it's around 3 in the morning. And I had been up for days. I finally crashed out. And all of a sudden, I just hear this boom, boom, boom. And they kicked down my door. And they're like, Shelley Winner, come out with your hands up. And as soon as I woke up, I mean, 'cause my brain was trying to like catch up with the reality of the situation. And so first thing you do, I take my drugs, I try to hide it. I had a glass bong, and I tried to smash it. And I walked out of the bedroom into the living room where they had just gotten in, broken down the door and were in the living room. They instantly grabbed me. They put the handcuffs on me, sat me down in one of the kitchen chairs, and then proceeded to ask me questions about where I got my drugs. And I said, I plead the fifth. I need to speak with my lawyer. And they said, okay, fine. And they took me down to the local jail, and I went through some of the worst withdrawals, just withdrawing from meth, heroin, prescription pills. Yeah. I probably weighed about 118 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, soaking wet.
And so you detoxed Did you detox in jail?
I detoxed in jail. It was awful. And the jail was so overcrowded. They had they're called boats. They put these like canoe-looking beds on the ground. They're made out of plastic. And the mattress was, I don't know, maybe an inch thick. It was it was awful. Yeah.
So eventually you ended up in prison. And detoxing is one thing. Getting sober and finding a way out of addiction is a completely different thing. Detoxing is just the very, very, very beginning of that, right?
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about that journey once you were incarcerated and it sounds like you found sobriety inside.
I did. So I always liked doing drugs. To me, I was like, I'm never quitting. I enjoy this lifestyle. And
you're sitting across from a kindred spirit. I got 12 years now, but
Good for you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah. And the turning point for me, and I probably would have just continued on my path of addiction, but I found out I was pregnant. And that's when I decided that I needed to change my life, because I did not want to be the same type of parent to my child that my father was to me. And I knew that if I didn't change my ways, it's exactly what I would be. And I would just continue that legacy, and then I would pass it on to him.
Right.
And I knew I needed to change. I didn't really know how to change, but I figured treatment would be a good start. And so so they let me out of jail, but they put me into a halfway house. And so a halfway house is basically you're still incarcerated, but you have the ability to work. So you're halfway to freedom.
Right.
Yeah. But you still have to check in. You still have all these rules you have to follow.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm at this halfway house, and I found out about this treatment center that was down the street. And I had asked my probation officer if she would allow me to go, and she told me no. Now, here I am in this halfway house, and everybody's using. I want to use. I'm dreaming about using. I'm like still craving it. And I knew if I didn't get out of that halfway house, I was going to use. I actually ended up using one time. And that was enough for me to like, you know what, I'm done. I'm pregnant and I'm still using. Like, this is crazy. I need to get into treatment. But that's how powerful addiction is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my probation officer tells me no, but I go ahead and apply behind her back. And you know what's ironic about this whole situation is because we didn't have access to computers, I didn't have a way to print the application, so I call my dad, of all people.
That's funny. Yeah.
And I'm like, Dad, can you print me the application to this treatment center? And I said, do you have any Roxy's? Because they were little blue pills, and because my dad was still an addict. He said, well, actually, yeah, I do. And I said, wrap one up in some foil, put it in between the application, and send it to me. And he did. And they never found it. And so that was the last time I used. I went into the bathroom. I smoked that pill on the foil. I filled out the application, mailed it in, and I got approved. And then, but the only problem is that my probation officer said no. And the judge is going to go with whatever the probation officer suggests. So my probation officer finds out. She shows up at the halfway house and she said, I told you not to apply. Why did you go behind my back? And I just looked at her and I almost started crying. And I said, I am really struggling here. I need to get into a treatment facility. This place is toxic for me. And there's drugs everywhere, and I need help. And I've never gone to treatment before, and I think this could really help me. And so when I framed it that way, she understood instantly, and she said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and approve this.
And what did you find there? Like, what was it that helped you cross over to a different kind of life?
So it's when I got there, So it's a faith-based treatment program. And I knew that I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God. And I knew that in order for me to beat this, I was going to need his help. I was going to need God's help. And going into the program, I had a lot of demons. I was a very negative person. And I pretty much hated every single person except one girl in that program. Everything they did irritated my life. And I almost got into a fist fight. And at this point, I'm about 6 months pregnant. I almost get into a fist fight with this girl. And yeah, I almost get kicked out of the program. And my probation officer shows up again, and she's like, listen, I didn't even want you to go into this program, but I went ahead and approved it, and this is how you're going to act. You are clearly not getting it. And you know what? They're kicking you out of this program, and I'm going to take you back to the local jail where I went through those withdrawals, that horrible jail, and you're going to spend the remainder of your time in there until you get sentenced. And once you give birth to your child, I'm going to make sure that you lose your child, you lose your rights, and that you never see him again, because clearly you are not getting it and you don't deserve to be a parent. And as soon as she said that, that just broke me. I just started crying. I asked for another chance. I asked her to go speak to the executive director and tell her, you know, you won't hear another peep out of me. I promise. Just give me that second chance. She says, I don't know if she's going to. I'll go talk to her. You wait here. I'll be right back. And I'm sitting in that office, and I am just praying like I've never prayed before. And she comes back in, and she said, okay, they're going to give you another chance. Whew. I went up to my room, and I dropped to my knees. And at that moment, that's when I surrendered. And I said, I'm done. I can't live like this anymore. God, soften my heart. Help me to become the woman you've called me to be. And I can't do this without you. And it didn't happen overnight, but slowly but surely, I started feeling like this huge weight that had been on my chest was starting to get lifted. And all of the things that I noticed about all of the other girls in the program that irritated me, I really started to notice the beautiful things about them and the things I loved. And then before you know it, one of the girls who I had the worst relationship with came up to me and she's like, you know, there's something different about you. I'm really enjoying this person that you are now. And that's when I knew that things were changing, and I felt it.
You know, I mean, I think any of us who've been in the recovery world for long enough, we know, I'm assuming you had some 12 steps as part of this, but, you know, second step is came to believe. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think is so interesting about step 2 is that it is in passive, it's written in a passive voice. It's not, I think this or you do this, that's active, right? It's came to believe. Which means that something happened, right? Something happened, and we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And, you know, not to get too programmy, and I know it's a little bit inside baseball, but I do think it's so fascinating to hear your story because it's different for every person.
Yep.
And for you, you just had to kind of get hit enough with some reality, and you came to believe, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. Definitely took the hard path.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks for that. We are going to take a break now, but when we come back, we're going to hear all about how you eventually got hired at Microsoft.
Yes.
We will be right back on The Last Mile. I am Tara Trask, your host. Welcome back. We're here on The Last Mile Radio. I am Tara Trask, your host. I'm here with Shelley Winner, and eventually, what ended up happening, once you got out, you were hired and you were working at Microsoft. Will you tell us what happened there? And there's quite a story around that part of your life, I think.
There's quite a story. So I had dreams of working at a big tech company before I even got out of prison. I didn't know how I was going to make that happen. I had no college degree, and now I have this criminal record hanging over my head. But nonetheless, I stayed positive. Well, I found out about this program while I was at the halfway house that helps people with criminal backgrounds break into tech. And so I enrolled into that program. Next thing you know, I'm doing this tech tour, all these different tech companies, and one of them happened to be Microsoft. And so we're in the first we go to the Microsoft retail store, and I find out that they're hiring. So I went ahead and applied. Next thing you know, I get an interview. I went in for that interview. I nailed it. And she was so impressed with me that right after the interview, she hired me right on the spot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, because I had, been out of prison just a few months, and here I was, getting a job offer from one of the biggest tech companies in the world. And then she tells me that the job offer is contingent upon the background check passing. And I knew at that moment that this opportunity was probably not going to happen. So I came clean with her. I told her that I had just gotten out of prison. It was for drug charges. It's not who I am today, but I wanted to let you know because it's going to show up on the background check. And she told me to make sure I'm honest about it. And because if I lied, then I definitely would not get the job.
Right.
So I went back, I filled out the background check with the email link they sent me, and I hit send. And during this time, as I'm waiting for the results, I start researching on the internet to see if I could find anything that Microsoft hired somebody, people with criminal records, and everything I came across pointed to no. And then finally, the moment I'd waited for, the background check results came back, and it had been flagged. They gave me 3 to 5 days to respond, explaining my situation. And so I thought, oh, great, they're giving me this opportunity to tell my story.
Yeah.
And so I wrote them a heartfelt letter talking a little bit about what I did wrong and why, but more importantly, what I did right. And during my time in prison, I had access to so many rehabilitative programs that when I left prison, I was completely transformed. And so all of the certificates that I had, I had them all. And so I scanned them to my cloud drive, I attached them to the letter, and I hit send and just prayed that they would see me for who I am today. Unfortunately, they came back and said no. Now, here's the crazy part. Now, this is ironic. So they have you do all of the onboarding. So you fill out all the paperwork, you pick your medical insurance. But on one of the emails, at the bottom of the email, it said, if you have a criminal record and you've been discriminated against, contact the Fair Chance Ordinance. And I had a link. So I click on the link, and what I read amazed me. I couldn't believe this. I'd never heard of a law like this, basically saying that no employer within San Francisco city limits can discriminate against somebody's criminal record unless it directly relates. And if they have proof of rehabilitation, which I had, then they can't be discriminated against either for that. So I fit the criteria of this law, and it sounded too good to be true. And they came back and said, no, we're not going to hire you. And I said, well, what about this Fair Chance Ordinance law? And they said, our decision is made, we're done. And that was it. So I called the Fair Chance Ordinance, not thinking anything. I was just floored, because what's interesting is they sent me the information. I would have never known about this.
Right. So they sent it to you in the email. Microsoft sent it to you.
Yeah, exactly. And so I figured they know about this law.
Yeah.
So there must be some loophole that they use to not hire me. Well,
how did you not just say, well, okay? I mean, it sounds like there was some reason that you thought, wait a second, no. Like, what are you doing?
I did think that for a second, but then I thought, you know what, let me just see what the Fair Chance Ordinance says. Let me just call them and see what happens. And so the interesting part is the HR in San Francisco knew about the law, because part of the law was they had to post it when somebody got the job, and they had to also post it at the bottom of any job descriptions. but they never communicated it back to headquarters in Washington, and that's where my background check went. Hence the reason they didn't know about the law.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So when the lady at the Fair Chance Ordinance contacted Microsoft, she handed it to him. She said, listen, just because you guys are Microsoft doesn't mean you don't need to abide by these laws. We have these laws in place for a reason. This girl has turned her life around. She deserves this second chance. She's qualified for this job. And they said, well, we've never heard of this law. Well, now you have.
Right. It was local, right? It was local.
It was a local law.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were not too happy about the situation. They ended up having to give me the job.
Did you have to bring a claim against them or anything, or was it just you were able to get it? You were basically able to sort of settle the issue through. Yeah, well, that's helpful at least.
Yeah. And next thing you know, I'm walking into my first day on the job, just in awe, just can't even believe. Even though they didn't want me, I was just so excited to be there. And my whole mindset was like, okay, I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and I am going to work like I am grateful for this opportunity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
I mean, we hear that story a lot at the last mile, right? When folks are able to get a position at something they really love, particularly something that has, I mean, I'm not saying particularly anywhere that is, but a lot of the companies that participate in some of these programs with the last mile, you know, these are prestigious places. And so, you know, we know repeatedly that people who have gone through the programs to better themselves, like, they really achieve and are incredibly effective employees.
They are. That's why I'm such an advocate for them.
Yeah. And that's where you are now. It sounds like I mean, you're an advocate. Tell us about Winner's Circle and how that came to be. Yeah.
Well, before I jump into Winner's Circle, I got to tell you what happened at Microsoft. So I ended up being one of their top employees, top sales. And then my goal was to get into corporate one day. And that happened. And I got into doing sales. And so in my 8 years at Microsoft, I had 4 promotions, and then I ended up becoming their #1 computer sales rep in the world.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. Winning one of their most prestigious awards called Gold Club. Less than 2% of Microsoft's employees ever get this award.
In how many years did you do that?
I did it within 5 years.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, if that's not a testament to how formerly incarcerated folks who have really made efforts to turn their lives around can do in the workplace, I don't know what is. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, and we're talking about a company that hires the best of the best, Ivy League graduates.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
I barely graduated high school. So, yeah. So I ended up, recently I left the company and decided I wanted to do the work that I'm doing now with Winner's Circle. And that's in prison rehabilitative work. And we also teach sales trainings for obvious reasons.
Right.
Might be a little bit biased. No.
Right. Yeah. No, that's great. No, you're bringing your particular skill set to that arena.
Exactly.
That's wonderful.
And for me, I know everything is about your mindset, because your thoughts become your reality. And so for me, it's about rewiring people's brains. And so a lot of what we focus on is just that. Because I honestly wouldn't have been able to achieve the success I achieved without all of that personal development that I did. Yeah. And that is what gave me the courage to stand up for myself. That was what gave me the ability to challenge my self-limiting beliefs and my self-limiting thoughts. Whereas prior to that, I would have just tucked my tail between my leg and gone home.
Yeah. It takes time and effort to rewire our brains, especially when you've got childhood trauma.
Yep.
You know, in this chair, I sit across from folks all the time, and the similarities and the through lines to the stories are pretty dramatic in a lot of ways. And, you know, and it's unfortunate that a lot of times it takes prison, but now with some of the programs that are available to folks, if they take advantage of them, there are ways to heal, and through that healing, find a different path.
Exactly. Because you can continue to be a victim and you might be justified by that, but it's not going to serve you.
Right. Right.
So, but beyond all of my personal success and everything, what I love is the fact that Microsoft has now changed their hiring policies.
Yeah.
I was a case study, and I was the first person they'd ever hired with a criminal record, at least within that 7-year period that they go back on the background check. And they got to see what we're made of.
Right.
Right. And so they ended up changing their hiring policies, first only in San Francisco, but then they joined the Second Chance Business Coalition, so they made a public statement about being a fair chance employer. And then I helped, I was more like a consultant helping with the LEAP program, which a lot of the last mile graduates I know have been in that LEAP program and have gotten jobs at Microsoft. But I helped with that.
Yeah,
get
that's
that program
amazing.
going. Yeah. Well,
you got a lot to be proud of. That's, we all want to hope that we can make our mark somehow. And it really is an incredible story to go from where you started.
Yeah. And Microsoft went public with my story. They allowed PBS NewsHour to cover it.
Yeah,
and I was like, great. Wow. Because I told PBS, I was like, there's no way you're going to get Microsoft to let you use their name. And next thing you know, the producer's calling me. He's like, yeah, we got approval.
Given that, right, that's a lot of, look, Microsoft, it doesn't get much more high profile, right? We're not talking about a small company. That's a kitchen table company everybody knows.
Right.
How, and with going public with your story and, changing to being a fair choice employer, we know that there's still a lot of companies out there that struggle to hire formerly incarcerated folks. What would you tell companies about why they should?
Yeah. Well, there's over 80 million people in America that have a criminal record, and they're an untapped talent pool. And you can't tell me that out of those 80 million people, there's nobody in there in that population that could be an asset to your company. I mean, take a look at my story. And there's so many other people that have achieved incredible things, achieved incredible success. And a lot of them are formerly incarcerated because they have the drive, they have the hustle. They're grateful for that second opportunity. And I believe that it gives companies a competitive edge because not everybody's seeking, talent from this pool.
Right.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
And it's doing the communities good too, because, the recidivism rates being 76%. And the number one reason they go back is a lack of stable employment. And guess whose taxpayers pay for the incarceration? So we should want them working rather than hindering them from opportunity. And they end up going back to what they know how to do. Right.
Yeah. I mean, right. In the culture, the conversation is always like, this group of people, right? Like they need to get jobs. They need to, whatever, just to scuttlebutt the way people talk about certain marginalized groups of people, formerly incarcerated people. And the truth of the matter is, it's very difficult if you don't have the opportunities. I mean, how can you better yourself if you don't have the opportunities, which is some of what I think your program, the Last Mile, other programs are providing, thankfully, now, at least a pathway. And the other thing I think it's so interesting to me how companies who cannot see that if you're dealing with a formerly incarcerated person who has done the work to get to a place where they can apply for a job at Microsoft and get it, and then go on to be the most successful salesperson in that company's, that year or what, I can't remember what you told me that was, but I mean, that is a highly evolved person. Like that is a person who is going to be an asset to any company. And that's the one thing I'm flabbergasted that more companies don't understand that. But I think some of it is that's what we're doing here, right? Yeah. We're trying to shed some light on it.
Right. Well, the great thing is that Microsoft obviously changed their tune about it, right? by making that public statement, becoming a fair chance employer. And I will say that they completely embraced me. They told the producer of PBS that we are so proud of Shelley, and we're so glad that she works for us.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it expands in a lot of ways. Like, I have a couple of folks that work for me that they're not formally incarcerated, but they are definitely, they're of different kind of groups where they might struggle to get hired elsewhere. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to make some minor modifications to the requirements of their job descriptions. And it's like, joke's on all of y'all that you don't see mm-hmm. that I am getting this top tier talent, these incredibly brilliant individuals. I might have to make a minor modification in something to accommodate them.
Right.
But I'm winning. As an employer, I'm winning in that scenario. And I think of folks who are formerly incarcerated and very similarly, folks who've done the work. It's hard to imagine a better employee. Yep. How did Winner's Circle come into being?
Well, with the success that I achieved, I attribute that to all of the personal development that I had done. And so I just figured, you know what? I should start a program and teach people the same things that I learned. And because for me, I'm a smart girl. I know this. I'm not an Albert Einstein, but that's okay. Most people aren't, right? And when I was in prison, all of the women that I was in there with were just amazing, smart, incredible people. And I knew if they were given that chance and if they had access to the same programs that I did, which they did, but not all of them did the programs, right? That they could achieve whatever it is they want to achieve in life.
Yeah.
Like, it's really all your mindset. And so for me, being, having that lived experience and really understanding the gaps intimately, I knew that, and especially with the story that I had now under my belt with Microsoft, that I needed to start a program because people who are incarcerated, I have credibility. I can share my story with them, and then I know that if I can do it, so can they. They just have to have the right tools, and they have to be open to wanting to change. And if they are, they can get out and do just about anything that they want. Whatever success is to them, they can achieve it. And so that's how Winner's Circle came to be. And for me, so I teach, there's 3 different pillars. In the first pillar, it's all mindset work, dealing with your trauma, dealing with the way your thoughts, your mindset, your thoughts, teaching them about that reality, right? Second pillar, we go into like financial literacy, how to budget, how to open a bank account. We teach some, for lack of a better term, some woo-woo stuff like breath work and meditation.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Self-management.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a small thing. Especially for folks who've never had any instruction in it.
Right.
And a lot of people who, for whatever reason, weren't raised by anybody.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We didn't get any of that.
Yep. And then the third pillar, we teach sales.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, I just figured having my lived experience, and I've spoken in many prisons, and I see the impact that my story has on them. And that also was, for me, an indicator, like just confirm that I should do something to help this population.
So, this show is heard inside a lot of correctional facilities. Mm-hmm. What would you say to anybody listening who is still inside, who maybe is feeling hopeless or wondering if they would ever get a second chance, and even if they did, what they would do with it? What would you say to them directly?
I would say that really, there's no reason to be hopeless. That anything is possible. Hopeless is a state of mind that you can change at any moment. That if you really want to learn a different way of life, it's available to you. I don't know about all prisons, but if there are any programs there that help rehabilitate, definitely take a part in that. Take advantage of that, because for me, I spent my entire time in prison programming, because to me, that's the incubation period. So reentry starts while you're incarcerated. So start working on yourself, start learning how to change your thoughts, because if you can change your thoughts, you're going to change your life.
Yeah, no doubt. There's no doubt. That's absolutely true. What's next for you? What's coming? Tell me what's the sort of the status of the things you're working on, and where are you headed?
So we're in contract now. We're getting ready to launch in 25 prisons.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Good for you. Congratulations. That's awesome.
You. Yep. So any correctional facilities out there that want to introduce my program, get a hold of me.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, where can we find you?
Yeah, so they can send me an email, Shelley at winnerscircleus.com. I have social media, so I have a Winner Circle program, TikTok, Instagram, and then also LinkedIn. Just type in Shelley Winner, there I am.
Yeah, great.
Connect with me there. Yeah.
That's great. Any final words? Any final send-off?
No, I just really appreciate being on the show. Shout out to Chris for making this happen.
Yeah.
And this has been a great experience. Thank you for elevating my story, because stories have the power to change the world. Yeah. And it's so important to elevate people's stories.
Well, and I would add to that, I would say stories are important for sure. But the other thing I'm learning sitting in this chair, which is you and I've talked about, is a little bit new for me. But one of the things I'm learning, programs, programs like The Last Mile, programs like the program that you're putting out there. These are really the route. They are the way. They are the way forward. I've heard more than one person, talk about when people are inside. There's the programmers, right? The people who are like going to everything and doing everything. And it strikes me that like those are the folks that are going to succeed. They are. Right? Like they go really into those programs, whether you feel like it or not in the moment, whether you think it's going to be great for you in the moment. It sounds to me like there's almost nothing that's ever going to go badly about being involved in the programs that are available to you in any kind of institution.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Yeah. We appreciate it. Hey, thank you for joining us. I am Tara Trask, your host on The Last Mile Radio, and we'll see you next time.